And tonight I have Kayla Pollock, who was injured by one of these mRNA shots many years ago and has been fighting very hard. She is paralyzed. And if you've been following her account on X, she's sort of reaching the end of her rope. So, welcome, Kayla. And
Hey, Mary.
can you give everybody the background, what happened?
Yeah, I took my COVID-19 shot in 2022. And I had a father that was dying in long-term care. I also felt really pressured. And to me, looking back, I was really coerced to kind of do it because it was um, really pressured onto me in different ways. Work also, my father did die in long term care, so I mean, I wouldn't have been able to see him. And then after getting the vaccine, I started developing these neurological symptoms within a day, and my legs just sort of collapsed once. And I remember thinking, this is just like when I had my C-section, and I was, trying to will them to move, but they seemed almost paralyzed. And it happened again. And I called my doctor and I told him, like, I think this is neurological. I think I need to see a neurologist. We talked about it. He said, if you go to the hospital, they're not going to do anything now because you're walking again. And which was right. And then ended up that I woke up on February 22nd, 2022. I woke up and I was paralyzed from the neck down.
Mhm.
And I knew at that time, I knew exactly that I was quadriplegic. And I went to my hospital and they told me that it was psychiatric and that it was all in my head. I had no previous psychiatric disorders or conditions that would lead them to making a diagnosis of that it's all in your head type of thing. Like I'm not schizophrenic or any sort of like hallucinations or anything. They check for drugs and alcohol, and of course they check for COVID-19. And then they put me in queue to see a psychiatrist.
Mhm.
And during that time, while I'm waiting in the hallway, I ended up just sort of starting screaming in pain. Like my neck was just all of a sudden hurting. And they started giving me morphine. And I realized then that they knew that this was something more because you don't give a psych patient morphine for pain.
Right.
You would assume they were hallucinating. And basically, after that, I was diagnosed after an MRI with transverse myelitis. And after 6 months in the hospital and at rehab, I came out of the hospital. And unfortunately, the services that they promised and offered and told me that I would have, um, which would be like someone coming to the house to help me get out of bed, because I can't even roll by myself. Like I have arm movement now, but I can't roll over or anything like that. And they told me that I'd have someone to come get me out of bed in the morning, and there'd be home care services. And for the first 3 days, I was just left in my house alone in bed. And I tried to go back to the hospital to get help. And that was the first of 3 times that they offered me um, medical assistance in dying. They said that there wasn't treatment for me to get better, and that there wasn't the services that I needed. Like the home care was overworked and overrun, and the long term care facilities were full. And that, Alexis, stop. Have I considered medical assistance in dying? And at that point in time, I actually was at the point where I started to communicate back and forth with the person who offered me this. It was a social worker at the hospital in the unit. And I ended up filling out emails and working back and forth with the hospital to initiate the process. And then when I found out that it could be done in such a small amount of time, I I think it was like 60 days or something. I have a son who's at the time, I believe he was 8. And I was just like, I cannot leave my son. I'm not ready to leave my son. And that's when I realized like this is real. And I knew then that I needed to talk about it. But at the same time, um, people like me and myself, I'm not suicidal. I don't want to die. I just don't want to live like this. And it's not the injury that's the problem. It's not the fact that I'm paralyzed. That's the least of my problems, believe it or not. It's more the fact that I mean, we have millions and millions of dollars to for wars and for all sorts of things that many of us don't agree with, but we talk about having free health care, and there's nobody to come and help me get out of bed or shower or get dressed or do anything like that unless you pay them. And it's $38.50 an hour. And it takes me an hour in the morning and an hour at night. And then in between, I'm alone all day and I try to take care of everything else I can. And this isn't not just not free healthcare, it's you're the government is basically telling people that we have this amazing healthcare system, and they're telling people to come into the country, and then they're displaying this as if it's something to be proud of. And the reality is that there's people like me that are literally just dying at home because we're not getting the care. We can't go to our appointments because we don't have the funding for, the wheelchair vehicles, for instance. Like a wheelchair vehicle, it's $80 for me to go 15 minutes from my house one way. And if I took a taxi, when I looked it up, it was $26. So because I'm in a wheelchair, it's going to cost me more than double. Or because I'm in a wheelchair, it's going to cost me more money for my vehicle. We had a muffler go wrong on my wheelchair accessible van, and it was like, I believe it was like $600 for just the muffler because it was a custom muffler because it's a wheelchair accessible van. And then it's because if you buy it brand new, which I didn't, but if you do, it's considered a luxury vehicle. So it's not just the cost of being disabled, it's the fact that they're telling me 3 times. And I was also told that if I took my COVID vaccine, we were all told that there was a vaccine injury compensation program. And I've been fighting with them for 4 years, even though it's all in my file that this was a side effect of the COVID-19 vaccine of my Moderna shot. It's been 4 years and I've been going back and forth. I did get on mainstream media and there was an investigation into our vaccine injury compensation program. And unfortunately, we found out that they did an internal investigation and they had caseworkers that said that they had drinking Fridays, there was a ping pong table, slushy machines, bring your dog to work. They were hiring high school students and they weren't doing the claims. So all of the millions of dollars that were put in to try and help people like me were just being spent on administration. So I know like there was $50 million and 18 million of it went to the first few people that were vaccine injured so that they could say, hey, look, we helped them. And I'm still fighting them. And now the program's being taken over by our health minister. And that means that everything's going to start all over again from scratch. And if you think I have any faith that it's going to be any better, of course not. That was bad enough, but when the government gets involved, it's all bureaucracy anyway, and they'll just pay themselves again. And I'm at the point where I don't know what to do.
Have any politicians reached out or connected with you at all?
The politicians don't want to talk to me. I tried to talk to them about it. They don't want to discuss medical assistance in dying, and they certainly don't want to discuss vaccine injuries. So my local MP, I fought and fought and fought him. And he wrote a letter to the healthcare minister asking her to have a word with me, but that never obviously went anywhere. I've never heard anything. And it was a kind of like a secretive letter. Like it wasn't like I asked him, post it on your X. I
Right.
had all my followers on him saying, do something for her, do something. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, knows my story and said, "Oh, that's really sad. The Fed should be helping her."
Wow.
That's what he said. But in case people forgot, in Ontario, our premiers are responsible for healthcare, not the federal government. And obviously, they work together and they're both to blame. But he just pushed off the blame, and nobody seems to care. It's just we've lost, I don't know where humanity went.
Who is it that exactly who's telling you to look into MAID?
When I go to the hospital, for any reason, I get put on the same floor because I have a spinal cord injury. So you will get put on the neuro rehab floor, and the social workers or the doctors, 3 times now in the same exact ward in the same exact hospital, 3 times. And I ended up giving the paperwork to a lawyer just so that somebody had it. And I said, like, he wanted it. He asked me for it. And I just said, like, this is this is what happened. This is the paperwork I have. And he's like, you have a lot of proof. You could go after them. But the thing is, I only have so many battles I can fight.
Right.
And going after them would mean, by principle, I would be telling them that what they did was wrong, but they know what they did was wrong.
Right.
And the thing is, if I get injured, that they take me back to that exact same hospital. If I have a urinary tract infection, for instance, because I use a catheter, I end up in that exact same hospital.
Mm-hmm.
If I have anything go wrong as someone who's paralyzed, which is, as you know, much more likely, breathing problems, that's your specialty, respiratory issues, that's more common in people that are quadriplegic.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem, correct? Like, getting a cold can be deadly, as you know. But I don't want to live my life being afraid of getting a cold. I just am afraid of getting a cold because I don't want to go back to that hospital and basically be told that my life isn't worth living anymore because I took a vaccine that they told me to take, and because I'm too expensive for the healthcare system. I'm just a number. This is what it's come to.
Do they know that you have a young son?
Yeah, of course.
Unbelievable. How old is your
I have an
son?
11-year-old son. And
And they I, it's just hard to
you're a
believe.
mother. You're a
Yeah, I can't
mother. So
even. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, because it's so public, because I speak out. I remember one time when my son was about 7, when this first happened, and he said to me all of a sudden, he goes, and it had nothing to do with me. It was just we had put the dog, we had to put our dog down, and he goes, "Hey, mom, did we put people down?" And I'm like, "Oh, some countries do." And I left it at that. And he goes, "Do they do that in Canada?" And I said, "Yeah, sometimes." And he goes, "Why would someone ever want to do that?" And I said, "Well, what if, somebody had cancer and they were really, really sick and they were going to pass away anyway, and it was really, really painful for them and it was horrible, and their family wanted to be with them when they passed away." I said, "Wouldn't that be a good option for them?" And he goes, "Mom, don't you think it's up to God when you die?" And I just thought, like, what am I supposed to say to my son? I just didn't have words. I'm not against medical assistance in dying for that. I'm against being offered medical assistance in dying. And the fact that we're on such a slippery slope that, you can take it if you're having a bad suicidal day, it seems like.
Yeah. And I mean,
Like right now,
you're not
I'm not
terminally
sick.
ill. You are not
No,
terminally ill. That's what's
no,
uh,
exactly.
shocking.
But even if you're suicidal, in my case, you're not supposed to be able to, but you can just say, I don't feel like my life's worth living because I'm quadriplegic, and they'll give you MAID.
What is the temperature in Canada over this policy? Is it pretty well
Mm.
accepted or
It's really hot topic right now, as you probably know, but it depends, because I think a lot of people are in support of having that option. A lot of people talk to me about having that option, specifically people who are worried about Alzheimer's. Now, my dad, what that died in long-term care, had early onset dementia, which is it's a frontal lobe dementia, which is a really serious and debilitating and awful thing to see someone go through. And if he had had the option for MAID, my mother looks back and says that, looking back on it, if that were to happen to her, she'd want that option. And I can understand their point of view there.
mm-hmm.
I can understand that being their choice, but that would be them making that decision, not somebody saying to you, this is what you should do, or this is your only option. I mean, that's a very personal choice, and being offered something like that is terrible. So the temperature here is now people are starting to feel like um that part is okay, but we've gone there's like a lot of people now that are like starting to talk about, is this some sort of like eugenics thing, or is this just a way, basically a non-contributing member of society
Mm-hmm.
is the person that's being targeted. And I'm not at all alone. I mean, there's a Paralympian that's well known who was a military veteran in Canada, and all she needed was a wheelchair ramp, and she was offered medical assistance in dying.
Wow.
She was an Invictus Games participant. She's got many, many, many medals in the Paralympics. And she was a military veteran, so she fought for our country, and then they use her on the posters to advertise for the Paralympics and the Invictus Games, but then they offer her medical assistance in dying. So people have testified under oath that this has happened to them, and they've shown proof. And I've got proof. Like, this is not just people saying it. Like, there's evidence, and unfortunately it's not mainstream media, but now all of a sudden you're seeing more mainstream in Canada, where you'll get bigger news outlets saying there was somebody who in Ontario who had, whatever this is, I don't know, you're the doctor, you tell me, post COVID-19 vaccination syndrome. I don't know what that is. And they were given medical assistance in dying.
And they took it?
They took it and they are gone.
Gosh, yeah.
And we don't even know what that is. Like, that's not in the medical textbooks, is it?
It's a wastebasket term for a vaccine
Yeah,
injury, right?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So there are so many, there's people that have been given it against their will, and it's been in the news. Like, there was an elderly woman who had thought about taking it, and then she decided that it was not in her religious best interest, and her husband wasn't able to continue to be her caregiver, and the decision was made that he couldn't do it anymore. And somehow it ended up, they had like two different doctors involved, and it ended up that the first doctor said no, she said no, and the second doctor said no, she consented, and then they gave her MAID, and she's gone. And it was reported on mainstream media. So, like, I don't know how far this is going to go. I can only speak for myself. But it's not that people like me want to give up on our children, or don't want to be a mom, or don't have things to contribute to society. I mean, even as a mother, okay, like for me,
my job as a mother is to raise a son that's going to grow up to respect humans and respect animals and respect our earth and respect people with disabilities and respect, just be a respectful man. And I believe that it's my job as a mother to give him values and, um, you know, tell him my mistakes and so that he knows that his mom wasn't perfect either. And set him up so that he's open to talking to me about things. And he is. I think it's like, talk about, here's an example of a contributing member of society. So you might think, well, you're sitting in a wheelchair, you're not doing anything, you're not contributing. Well, my son's getting like a 70 last year in science, and I said, buddy, I'm sure that you could literally be the best in science in your whole class. And he goes, well, why would I do that? I'm getting good enough marks. Like, why would I work harder? And I'm like, you don't have to, but it would make you feel really good. Wouldn't it feel really, really good if you could beat Luke in science this year? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, I know you can. And he's like, how do you know? I'm like, because you've been around me your whole life. Your medical knowledge is way beyond any of those kids. I guarantee it. Like, since I was a kid, or since you were born, mom's had type 1 diabetes. You know all about carbohydrate counting. You know all about insulin. You know what a pancreas is. You know all about organs. Since mommy's been paralyzed, like catheter, all of this stuff. Like, that's knowledge. And so he goes, okay. And I didn't talk to him about it again. And then one day he says to me, hey, mom, and this was when he was 10. He's like, the fallopian tubes. Well, is that where the blood comes out of? Like, when a woman has her period, it doesn't come from there. And I'm like, no, honey, it comes from her uterus because that's the lining where the baby. And he's like, okay, I just wanted to check. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, and that's why women put tampons in. And I'm like, yep. And I'm like, okay. So there's a man who will go to the store and buy tampons for his wife if nothing else.
Right.
Like, right. And then so I didn't know, but then not only does he get the Perseverance Award one day, he also gets the Science Award.
Oh.
And he goes to Tim Hortons one day and he finds me a wheelchair accessible table. And I come over to it and I can't fit under it. He goes, Mom, why can't you fit under it? I said, because it's made for a different type of wheelchair. And he goes, well, that's stupid. They could put a little lever under it and it would move up and down and it would work for everyone. And I'm like, honey, that's like $1 million idea that you have right there. And you didn't have to even go to school to figure all that out. You
Yeah.
could be anything that you want to be just by thinking like that.
That's
So,
awesome.
like, that's a contributing member of society to me by making your child a contributing member of society. If that's the way I see it, like, I'm
I
not
mean,
dead.
destroying your life would destroy his life, right? I mean,
I know
that's
that.
just beyond
I'd be
comprehension
lying
for
if
me.
I said I wasn't here just for him sometimes.
Well, I mean, yeah, as a mother, yeah, well, and so the government has completely abandoned you. Are there any private organizations that have come to help, or
Like, as of now, no.
yeah?
No. There's, I've had to just crowdfund on social media. And, unfortunately, when you're talking to the same people over and over again, there's only so much that those people can do. And so I try to share my story as much as possible to also let other people know that this is like a real thing that happened, and that um there's a lot of different pieces to my story that are of interest in different ways, I think. And so I speak out a lot against sort of the healthcare reform and doctors being pushed to tell their patients certain things, or feeling like they can't talk to their patients about, you know, other things. Like my doctor refused to give the COVID-19 vaccines. I didn't even know that until after this happened to me.
Wow.
I didn't even know that. He never gave one. And he didn't lose his license, but a lot of people did, as you know.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people did. And so people are less scared about that, but now they just don't, we've lost so many workers because of the pandemic, and those workers that used to be there are no longer. And then they're shoving them through school so quickly that within 6 months, they think that you can do this job. And they've got a lot of, for lack of terms, really dumb people with no common sense, that are trying to get into this profession, and it's really disgusting. Actually, some of them don't even know how to take urine out of a catheter bag.
I believe it. I believe it. How are things going with your lawsuit? Because you were suing Moderna, right?
Yeah, I'm suing Moderna for $45 million. Things are going quite well. We've got pre-trials that are going to be coming up and all the dates for that. And I'll be definitely like posting about that. And it's a trial by jury in my hometown of Newmarket. So it's a small town trial, but I doubt they're gonna wanna go to trial because they don't want the documents out, as far as what is hidden in those Moderna blacked out sections, that they're not gonna want that out. But those things take so much time, and in the meantime, I don't have time to wait in a way. Like if I guess people don't understand, well, why don't you just stay in bed? That sounds great. But like for someone like me, if I stay on one side, I'm gonna get bed sores and it hurts. It's like it feels like I've been in a car accident and my legs are all mangled and I can't move them, and it's so painful, and it's like waiting for the ambulance to come. You just sometimes, even when I'm sleeping and I wake up, I think I've been in a car accident because I can feel everything. And it feels like you're just mangled up, and it's so painful, and you're just supposed to wait, and you're getting not just more sore, but then other things start to go wrong. So like recently I just went blind in my left eye, had to have retinal surgery on it. And it wasn't related to diabetes. Never had any issues before my vaccine. And then because I'm quadriplegic now, my muscles aren't there, so they're not holding in my joints. So my joints are popping out of the sockets because there's no muscle to keep them in. So I've posted like pictures of my knee and my hip and my x-rays and my ultrasound so that people know, like, this is not just something I'm making up. This is the reality for someone who has this life. You know, it's terrible.
Well, I'm so sorry. Have they filed a motion to dismiss, and have you overcome that?
They did file a motion to dismiss. We're not worried about that. It's just something that they always do, as you can obviously imagine. But my lawyer's been speaking with their lawyers, so we've already had to plan the pretrial and everything. They had tried to file the motion based on saying um, that their vaccine doesn't cause transverse myelitis, but then it says below it, if our vaccine does cause transverse myelitis, you should have known about it. So it's kind of humorous, like, to read it. You can't really help but laugh about it because it's so ridiculous. And of course, they didn't want to disclose their secret documents of whatever their whatever they've got in those blacked out sections. They didn't want to disclose that, so they just didn't. So we have to force disclosure. And obviously, if they didn't do anything wrong, they would just show the documents and we'd be done. So it's not actually taking as long as we had predicted. It's it's the only trial against a vaccine company in North America for Moderna. And it's other than there's, as my lawyer's the same as Dan Hartman's, and Pfizer unfortunately has more lawyers and more more of a fight. So mine has proceeded quite quickly compared to Dan's. And he started before I did. But that's probably because of the size of their vaccine company.
Well, that's good to hear that things are progressing and you got through the motion to dismiss. When you got your vaccine, did you get any sort of informed consent?
That I could be paralyzed? No. I could have a sore arm, or I might get some swelling at the site of the injection, all that stuff. But no, there was no. I mean, you know what? I thought I had Guillain-Barré. But it turns out that I am far from the only one who's gotten transverse myelitis from a vaccine. It is a known vaccine reaction. It's an autoimmune disorder where my spinal cord was so swollen, and it went right up to my C2 vertebrae, right down my back. And they were able to use steroids and get it to go down to my C4. So, I have use of my one arm is pretty good. I just remember saying, I don't want to live if I can't hug my son again. I just remember saying that. But, you will yourself to walk and move, and it doesn't work that way. That's not how paralysis works. And it's frustrating because people will call me or post, if you eat healthy, or if you take this this protocol, or if you detox using this, or if you use a nicotine patch, or I'm like, if you don't think I've tried all that, you're crazy. Like there's nothing that I can, other than I haven't done stem cell therapy because that costs quite a bit of money, as you know. And these things, we don't have them in Canada. Usually you have to travel to the States or to a different country, and traveling's been like, I can't just travel. It's not that, like, I wish I could travel. I can't even go outside right now. I haven't been outside since Christmas because there's snow and my wheelchair doesn't go through the snow. Like, it just doesn't. It'll just spin around and get stuck, and you're literally stuck and have to call 911 to get you out. So you can't leave. So you're stuck in a house alone all day. And I mean, I mean, the worst part of it is I didn't lose my son. I had to make sure that my son went and lived with his dad so he could continue proper, like, going to school and doing those things, because I had to move away from him just to find a place that was wheelchair accessible. So I live 20 minutes away from him. I see him every other weekend. That's not very much to see your kid when you were seeing him every day. I even worked at his school as an EA, so I saw him every day, even if it wasn't my day. So, and it's not because his dad's mean or he took him away. Like, his dad and I get along really well. It's just that was the best thing to do for him, but it is really hard on both of us. I mean, I don't know how many times my heart's been broken because he'll hug me like 5 times and give me a kiss on both cheeks like 5 times before he leaves, and then he'll call me right when he gets to his dad's. And to see your son going through that and still going through that at 11, and just wanting, I mean, just even him wanting to come sleep in my bed with me because I talked to a child psychologist and said, is this normal? And she goes, I think he's trying to protect you because it happened when you were sleeping. And he feels like if he's there, maybe he can save bad things from happening to you when you go to sleep because he wants to protect his mom because he loves his mom. And he that's his way of trying to be there for you, thinking that if he sleeps beside you, that nothing bad will happen to you. And that's so innocent of him to think and feel, and it just rips your heart out as a mom because you don't want your child to hurt. And when he knows that his mom's being left in bed and abandoned, it hurts him. He's 11, he's not dumb, and he'll look up something online and he'll show me like a restaurant, a video, like a YouTube video, and you always think your kid's watching stupid YouTube videos or what the heck are they watching? And then he'll send me the clip and it's like a restaurant all run by disabled people or something. And it's just so sweet. So I know that he's a better person because of what's happened to me, but it doesn't, I just want to be alive and around for my son, and for people to know that I'm not just nothing because I'm in a wheelchair. And it's not people in general. I mean, it's just the government telling you that basically you should go and off yourself because you're too much money. Anybody could trip on a stick and be in my chair. You don't have to get into a major car accident. You could just trip on a stick the wrong way, break your neck, and be in my chair.
Are you connected to other people in your situation that are also struggling to get help from the government?
Yeah, unfortunately, I am. It's even scarier sometimes when you connect with other people. It's even scarier because knowing that they've been doing it longer and they can't get help either. It can really, like, I mean, if God forbid I can't take care of myself or have people take care of me at home, Doug Ford, our premier, has made it so that you get sent to the closest long-term care facility to you. And that could be 100 kilometers away from my kid who's only 11. So I would never see him. And I mean, you're a mom. Can you imagine being sent to a long-term care facility where your kids had no one to drive them and had no access to coming to see you at all, and you couldn't see them? You just could talk to them over FaceTime. You couldn't hug them. You couldn't smell their hair. You couldn't, that's not what being a mom is, not talking to your kid on a screen.
Well, I'm so sorry this has happened, and I hope everybody watching will pitch in if you can. I mean, even a couple dollars, $5, if we all pitched in a little bit, this could make a huge difference in Kayla and getting her the help she needs to live independently. And the government basically wants to euthanize her because she's considered a burden, but she's got a son who needs her, and she's also speaking out and helping other people just by speaking out. So thank you so much, Kayla. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to thank you for, all the support that you do give and having me on again. And you've been great to the people that actually, at preventing people not just from taking the vaccine, but also helping the people that did, and understanding that we're not bad people because we made a bad choice. And that means a lot, because a lot of people just write us off and say, hey, you know what, you took it, it was a risk you took, and they don't care why we took it. They just feel like we're less than, because they assume that we were one of those people that were telling them that they were crazy, and I wasn't one of those people. I had lots of friends that didn't take the vaccine. I
Well,
was just,
the government, I don't know how much money Canada spent, but the US government spent $11.5 billion on marketing, on influencing people to get the shots. So I don't blame
wow.
anybody because no one got true informed consent. And,
It's still happening. I was listening to Spotify and they're telling me to go get my COVID vaccine. I get text messages from pharmacies that I like if I where I go to fill my medications telling me to go get my COVID vaccine. I still see it and hear it everywhere and I'm thinking, I'm jokingly thinking, well, maybe if I go get another COVID vaccine, it will reverse my paralysis. What the heck are they thinking? I'm joking, but like,
no, and I mean, I'm not seeing patients. I still treat patients, and
yeah,
I can't remember the last time I saw a patient with COVID. And if they did show up, I
I
mean,
don't know anyone with COVID that's dying.
no one is dying of COVID. If they
I
are, then
don't,
it's severe medical negligence.
yeah,
It,
and
and
they're putting it in our flu shots here.
they're putting the COVID shots. They're combining
Yes,
them.
we have a combined flu shot and COVID shot. Do you guys have that?
I have not seen that. I'm going to look into
Well,
that.
now I have to be like talking to my son's dad all the time about the flu shot. And my son is like, do I like, he doesn't want to get in between his dad and I. So if his dad says that he's got to take it, and he knows what happened to me, like, can you imagine the situation that puts my son in for thinking like
Well,
that's
no,
that's
I have a similar situation where dad
it's
differs in his opinion. Yes.
yeah, and you're a doctor, but it doesn't matter in personal matters, you're just mom. And it doesn't matter how much I know either. Or even if he has some sort, how do we know he doesn't have some sort of genetic vulnerability to it? Even if it's just that. We just don't know, so why try? He's not likely to die of a cold or a flu or COVID at the age of 11. So let's just leave it. Like,
Exactly.
let's just leave it. And I mean, that being said, I have a roommate who had a 13-year, when his aunt was 13, she got the flu and had a fever so bad that she had brain damage and she has the mentality of an 8-year-old. So I know how severe the flu could be, but the likelihood of that happening when you're 13 or 11 in my son's case is so rare. And with the COVID vaccines, we're seeing so many side effects that are not rare. That's why our vaccine injury compensation program has like way more people. They thought there'd be like 400 applicants. There's thousands of people that are injured by the COVID shots. I don't know about like if your country, if the US thought that there'd be this many people that would be injured, or if it's seen as I don't know, what's the temperature there like for taking your COVID vaccines or vaccination?
Yeah. Well, personally, I don't know. Well, I did see one patient recently that got a COVID and a flu shot, but they were separate.
Okay.
And he was coerced into getting it by his primary care doctor. And then he came down with just severe muscle pains all over his body. He's not paralyzed, but he has to be on steroids or he's in agonizing
So
pain.
it's like autoimmune
Mhm.
issues, yeah, or neurological stuff. So,
But
and steroids are no fun.
yeah, no, they are. But and then according to the CDC's website, approximately 6 million children in the US have gotten the latest version of the COVID shot, which is crazy. And now
6 million?
these are rough numbers based on a survey, but people are still getting them.
There's people here wearing masks a lot more.
Mm.
It's coming back. Like there's a lot of people wearing masks. Our hospitals still offer masks and sanitizer and tell you to wear them. It never went away. And even like the workers that come to the house have to wear masks, which wasn't something before COVID. So I do see, I've seen people driving in their cars alone with masks lately.
I was in the airport yesterday and I only saw one person wearing a mask, but
Really?
usually it's a lot more, especially this time of
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I
And
only
I
saw
mean,
one
some
person.
people like, so I mean, I don't know with your profession, if it was someone like me that's more likely to get something and it could be really severe, you might have told me to wear a mask. Maybe, I don't know, previously, like before COVID, I don't know what you would have, no? Okay.
No, never.
My respirologist said, because you're paralyzed and you're more likely to get things, you should be wearing a mask when you go out. I don't do that because I'm like, I can't live my life in fear of everything I might get. And so far, knock on wood, in 4 years, I haven't gotten anything. And I've had people around me that were sick, including my son. I mean, he goes to school. If you want to find dirty places, go to a school. I mean, he goes to school and his brother goes to a different school. So imagine that. Like there's the germs for us. So, I'm not, that's the least of my concerns is coming down with whatever. I'm more worried about just dying alone at home because there's no one here. And I'm also type 1 diabetic. That's why you're hearing all the beeping going off and watching me drink things. And, I'm more worried about someone just not showing up and I can't reach my Gatorade or whatever I need to drink to get my sugars up. And that's the end of me. And I do everything I can to put things close to me and to do all that, but they just don't show up. They'll just leave you there because unless you pay for private care, then they show up and they actually seem to care. They actually seem to really care, which is really sad.
Well, I hope everybody watching will pitch in, and also we need to have you back when you have some updates on your lawsuit. But please don't give up. You have a lot of supporters out there. And
Not giving.
good. And keep us posted, and we'll have you back soon. Thank you so much, Kayla.